To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the Send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press Enter or Send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
Hello, good day. Welcome to Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast, episode 127, coming to you live today, July 14, 2024. We have an exciting show lined up for you. Welcome to our regular contributor, Desmond Richards, founder of Rebel Radio Jamaica. Brother Desmond, what will you be telling our viewers about today?
Well, I want to talk about hurricane preparedness, and how people are managing with Hurricane Beryl, which devastated the southern section of the country.
All right, hold tight. We're coming back to you. Today we have a very special guest, and we want to welcome President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, who will be talking to us about his area of expertise, which is agriculture in Jamaica. Mr. Fulton, welcome to the show.
Lisa.
All right, we'll come back to Mr. Fulton. We want to welcome you, especially our viewers. The show would not be 127 episodes without your support. Feel free to comment during the program. We encourage you to also subscribe and share the podcast. Call your neighbor, call your friend, tell them Frankly Speaking is on. Tune in right now because they don't want to miss this week's episode. Your regular host, Frankly McKnight, is not with us right at the minute and may join us later. I am your guest host for today, Mary White. We're going to go back to see if Mr. Fulton is now available. Hurricane Beryl didn't make a direct hit on Jamaica, as we know, thanks to the prayers of every Jamaican and everybody else who was praying for us all over the diaspora and the world. But the country is still continuing to suffer from its passage. In the meantime, one of the sectors battered by Beryl, agriculture, has its own internal storm. And today we have, as we say, Mr. Fulton, the current president of the JAS, to share with us, give us some insight as to what is happening right now with the situation of his presidency, the handover of his presidency, with some court action. Mr. Fulton, are you now hearing us?
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead and just give us a little bit of insight with what's happening with the handing over of your presidency as you come to the end of your tenure. All right, looks like we're having some technical challenges with Mr. Fulton. We're going to leave him with our producer, Joshua Black, to sort that out. And if everything works well, you can bring back.
I am hearing you. Okay.
Oh, great. We were just going to move on to Brother Desmond, but if you're hearing us now, we'll take your segment now. So I was just saying that there was a little bit of storm happening in the JAS as well, right? As you come to the end of your tenure to hand over, I hear that there are some court matters involved. Give us a little bit, Jamaicans love them sus. Give us a little bit of what's happening, that drama.
Well, there were two court issues. One filed by a member from Westmoreland that we have short service give less notice than we should have to direct members, and that was filed in July 2022. And the
Right.
judge issued an injunction, and that injunction struggles 2 years, 2022 and 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Also during 2023, the member from Portland filed an injunction that we have not been transparent and with the right probity with the members' money, millions of dollars that
Wow.
cannot be identified. And the judge also granted a 28-day declaratory injunction and said we should not have an AGM and we must present to the court a forensic audit. Those two provisions are yet to be met. So
Mm-hmm.
on the 10th of this month, they broke the injunction or breached it and have an AGM. And that is back in the court now for the judge to rule on again. So that in short the court issues.
So it's like they're quite out of order, we would say, out of order, to disregard a two court ruling and do their own things. But where does this
In,
leave you though? As you look to exit office, you can't exit office until all of this drama is settled by the court, right?
right, if the court rules that the AGM recently held is null and void, then it would have frozen me in the post
Mm-hmm.
until a new AGM comes up next year.
Okay, well,
But
we
we,
thank you
we
for your
hope not.
service. And you
Well,
definitely want to get going, but we'll
yes,
serve if needs be.
if needs be, for the
If
love of
needs
the
be.
farmers
All
and
right,
so
all
on.
right. So let's turn our attention to some serious matters that has happened recently, such as the passing of Hurricane Beryl. And for you, because I hear disaster, I hear hurricane, I immediately start to think food supply, food security, food prices, right? What is the
Uh-huh.
implication for agriculture of Hurricane Beryl, and can you put in perspective in the mind of us regular Jamaicans? Because most time these things go over our head. What happens to agriculture after a disaster to food supply, food security, and food prices?
Well, what is left, which is probably 15% of our production,
Wow.
will go for very high prices. Yam was being sold in Coronation this Saturday at $500 a pound,
So who can
which
buy that?
our people really don't afford. That's right, and it's going to go right up to 800, those sort of figures, because we don't have any. The vegetables are all gone, but those are short term. We will have vegetable again in 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But yam is a 9-month crop, so it will take some time to get back those crops. Sweet potatoes in the ground, but they might be waterlogged, so those prices are up. And
Mm.
other crops like dasheen and cocoa, some of them have been washed out. The entire banana and plantain population have been wiped out, 90%. The
Wow.
entire papa population is down about 90%. And our
So
fruits,
for the
the
next three
mangoes,
months,
about 8.
so what I'm hearing is that for the next 3 months, for the quick cash crops to come back in, what did you say, 12 weeks, which is 3 months, right?
Yes,
Right. And then
and
the
we will
longer
have
crop,
vegetable, right. But the
we'll have
longer
that.
term crop will take
So
time,
what do
right?
we do? What do we do? Because buying a $500 pound of yam is not an option for me. What do we do,
Yeah, of course.
or what is the role of the government? While all of these shortages are happening or high prices are happening, what is the role of the government to navigate this food shortage, to prevent
Well,
or possibly a famine situation, sort of?
well, regrettably, the government have already removed GCT and imported vegetables and food stuff. So I
Regret.
guess
Mhm.
in a time like this, they are going to import.
Yes.
They will import. But that will have a
So is
serious
that bad
effect
that
on our
is it
dollar.
bad? You said regrettably the GCT is removed, but wouldn't that benefit us in a time now where we definitely need to import at least the importers who are already experiencing their own cash flow problems because the hurricane affects businesses? Isn't the
Yes,
lack
we'll
of
have to.
GCT a good thing for this disaster?
It can't be a good thing because you make importation easier and the
Mhm.
government will make less money because you lose that 15%. And at the same time, you'll have to find US dollar. And you know, a dollar is very frivolous. And the
Mhm.
same agriculture last year earned 300 million US. It
Right.
contributes 8% to our GDP in the primary farm and employ 20% of our labor force. So all of that will be affected. So
Okay.
it affects the economy in many ways. But importation might be a short-term solution, and we do not have any problem with that.
That's what
But
I am thinking too, because
but hold on there. Hold
go
on
on, brother.
there. Hold on there a second. Mr. Fulton,
Uh-huh.
imported we will be able to import vegetables and those other things. But for example, I don't think we are going to import yams, and we might have to import bananas and plantains too.
Well, I think we'll have to use starch, carbohydrate substitute,
Maybe rice.
flour rice, flour rice, and Irish potato, and these things.
Well, Lord
And
help us because you know that those things have negative effects on our health and wellness. Because too much rice just go to and flour goes and blow up everybody like that. Because you know the good
yes,
starch is the yam and the sweet potato is what the wellness people are all pushing these days.
you're right. And we as a people need to use more cassava. Cassava was the major food used here. And Columbus came here and killed off the Arawaks and take away cassava from us and
Mhm.
replace it with flour and rice. And we
So
have not
how did the
reversed that
hurricane
trend.
affect the cassava? Do we still have cassava in the ground?
We still have a lot of cassava, and as soon as we get a little sunlight, they will
Mhm.
be able to be usable. So
Well,
we
that's
still have a
very
lot of
encouraging
cassava.
news. That's
Yes.
so we now is the time that we have to learn to substitute some substitution mechanism. We don't have
Yes, and
yam, we can substitute with cassava and cornmeal is another thing which they're pushing as healthy. So instead of we going over to rice, maybe we can do more cornmeal dishes, right?
right. And remember, your body don't know anything about what we call sugar or yam or banana.
Hmm. Right.
Your body knows a glucose molecule that comes from starchy food. So any one of the healthy starchy food you eat, you will get your body requirement from it.
Absolutely. I'm happy that we're getting that message out that even though we're having some shortages, it's time to look for some healthy substitutions to keep our health, the health and the wellness of the nation up to a level because we don't want to have two disasters, a health disaster and a natural disaster running hand in hand, right?
I agree.
Mr. Fulton, what was the level? What was the impact on other areas of agriculture? So, for example, how did it affect the chicken farmers and goats and pigs?
Good question,
How,
Brother D.
The chicken farmers have been hard hit, especially the small farmers that make their own pens out of
mm,
makeshift material. They cut sticks and bamboo and buy the mesh wire and do their backyard chicken farming. That's our culture. And there is a bamboo project here being pushed by a Canadian company. So a lot of these pens could not withstand a hurricane like Beryl. So they blow them away and they will have to rebuild. And in the meantime, the day old chicken sales would have fallen flat and the
Mm.
feed supply would have fallen flat. So until we rebuild the pen, that 40% of the chicken meat that we supply to the Jamaican economy will be much reduced. And as you know, last year we produced 137 million kg of chicken, of which
That is
40% of
small
that were
farmers, you
produced
mean?
by, no, all farmers produce that, but 40% of that was
Mm.
produced by the small farmers. So
And
it's a
they
big
are the ones
economy
who
you
are
talk
hard hit
about.
by this hurricane.
Yes, they are the one who are
That's
hard
a
hit
big
by this
blow.
hurricane.
That's a big blow, Beryl. Very
That's a
big
big blow. Yes.
So the question I want to ask now, Mr. Fulton, as we come down because the time is moving quickly, is there you hear these talk about protective agriculture, that the government can do more and all of that, and to look at other countries and societies to see what they're practicing so that they're not so hard hit by disasters. What I think you said this is called protective agriculture.
Protected agriculture.
Okay, tell us what Jamaica, if Jamaica can benefit from that and in what way and who is doing it, etc.
We have shadows farmers in Jamaica, but they are very limited with respect to the size of our agriculture. And only some crops can be grown in there. The vegetables and so on can be grown in there. You can't grow yam and banana in there. But we just have less than probably 100 acres of shadows in Jamaica. We need to have about 2,000 acres. So we are nowhere near what we should have to fill the gap, especially in the drought. And we need to look at new ways of constructing these houses because they are very vulnerable to hurricanes. So we have to make them where you could roll off the shade cloth and let the breeze pass through and then you retrofit your house. So we have learned a lesson that we'll have to get our engineers to bring us into a new direction.
Well, as you go out, because welcome Frankly McKnight, I see you're joining.
Thank you very much.
Joining the discussion. Our host is back. I'll fully finish up with Mr. Fulton and then hand over. Mr. Fulton, as you go out, Mr. Mac, did you have any question before I give Mr. Fulton his out question?
Well, I just wanted to find out. I joined late, and I'm sorry for that. I just wanted to find out if Mr. Fulton is still president. I'm sure he might have explained it, but for me and others joining late, are you still president, Mr. Fulton?
I am president up to the first meeting in September. The gentleman, Mr. Owen Dobson, who have been elected, is the president-elect until September. So I'm still in charge of the organization as per our constitution. And whether or not my time would have expired in September, having done 6 years in the position as president, so the constitution would not accommodate me a day over that.
I understand these constitutions and protocols of AGM governance. So back to the agriculture matter, Mr. Fulton. Dembe, no farmers, no food stuff, no produce, no Dembe. Apart from the cultural and entertainment benefits to the country, what other disadvantages is not the hosting of Dembe, the cancellation of Dembe, causing to our country?
There's a lot of disadvantage because it is where our farmers really pick up new technology. All the input suppliers would have introduced new lines of planting material, new equipment, and so on. That's where the technology transfer happens every year. This year we can't have it because our farmers are in serious problem and they are doing their restorative work now on their farm. It would be insensitive to take them from their farm for a whole week to take them to Denby, part of which is frolicking too. So we have to restore them first and then we go back to our shows. And early in the year, by Good Friday next year, we begin the series of our shows all over with the Hague show. And then Easter Monday, we have the St. Mary and the Montpelier show and all the other 8 shows. So we'll have to pump up these shows early next year and prepare for a bigger Denby in 2025. But we can't take the show, although it is being kept in Clarendon, even if the ground was not damaged, and it had great damage, you couldn't go out in the communities and take people out.
And
For
take them away
example,
from their farms.
right,
Last
and not
word.
only from their farm, the first day is youth in agriculture. You can't go into these villages to take people's children under this condition, to take them to a
Understood.
show. So you have to understand the
Okay,
nature and the
last
mechanics of
words,
the
Mr.
show.
Fulton, as we come to a close of this segment. Is there one thing that we have not discussed that you feel the Jamaicans people need to know about agriculture in our country? What are your last words?
My last word is that there are 250,000 registered farmers. We contribute 8% to GDP. We earn a significant amount of foreign exchange last year, over 300 million. Yam itself earned over 50 million, and Aki about 30 million in US dollar export. So it's a major contributor that employ 20% of our people, and is the backbone of the rural economy. And it affects everybody. Hundreds of trucks and minivan move agricultural produce to over or probably 50 parochial markets across Jamaica. And therefore, it's a major income earner for most of our people, not only farmers, but people that operate transportation and so on. So we have to get the sector back up, to get rural Jamaica back up. And we will do that. Leave it in our hands. In 6-8 months, we are back to where we were before the hurricane.
All right, Mr. Fulton, we want to thank you so much. We have just heard from Mr. Fulton, JAS president, and he has given us much food for thought. I'm getting into agriculture any minute now to benefit from all of this money I hear that is made. So we are now going to move into our next segment. Remember that you can comment. We'll take your comments during the show to just keep you a part of the synergy. We're going to move straight into Frankly McKnight, and he will take over from here.
Okay, well, I thank you very much, Mary, and thank you for all those who have joined us and are following us. I wanted to go to Desmond Richards, because he's concerned about, we all know it's not only the farming sector that got hit and hurt by Hurricane Beryl. So I would love to hear Desmond's sense of what Jamaica is facing now and whether he thinks we were prepared. Desmond, over to you.
Yes, well, as we speak right now, there are hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who are reeling, feeling the impact of Beryl. In St. Elizabeth, when I talk to people down there, many people right now, houses without roof. You have black roads, lack of water, and lack of food. Now, the question of being prepared, one of the things that we must know, that significant numbers of houses in Jamaica, rural and urban, are not prepared for a hurricane. In other words, the roofs are not properly prepared for a hurricane. And this is something that we will have to pay attention to. Another thing is that were we prepared were the government prepared for the hurricanes? We ought not to be having a situation where days before a hurricane, where they are cleaning drains. Drain cleaning must be for an annual affair, because hurricanes is an annual event. We can't prevent hurricanes. What we must do is prepare ourselves for hurricanes. And I am saying that some of the damages that we are having is because we are not prepared. The drains are not cleaned. The 287 light poles went down. Some of those light poles were in poor condition before, where they were not properly serviced, right? And so what we need is that we need to focus our attention some more and preparedness for hurricane so that we can prevent the disaster at the end of the hurricane. These,
Desmond, I want to take up on that point that you mentioned with regard to the maintenance, like, for example, of the JPS poles. I was at a parish council meeting in St. Anne on Thursday, and several councillors made that point. They made a point about the poles, and they made a point about overhanging trees. And the argument was that, I remember one councillor, what's his name? One councillor, Carlton Ricketts, mentioning that he went out with JPS sometime before on their maintenance run and looked at one. And many of the poles that came down were poles identified for being replaced, removal and replacement. He said many of them were. Now, I don't know, but I've heard Minister Vaz speaking about being assured of how the system is coming back up. And one of the things I'd love to know is, Desmond, I don't know if you have heard it, or Mary, or anybody has heard it, an understanding, an explanation as to exactly what happened, why parts of Jamaica, not just St. Elizabeth now, are still without electricity today.
Well, it is. I don't hear any official reason, but if you look at it, you can see why the poles are down.
And in many places, it's not poles that have gone down. In many places, there were no poles that went down, you know.
In my area, Tarmac, in my area, what happened is that when they turned on, like a day later, when the electricity came on, you just heard like fireworks going off. It's a transformers, I understand. So obviously there's some this obstruction on the line, and so those areas that are still out of light because they're not, it has escalated into a big problem when once the transformers blew out when they turned on back the light.
I don't want to make light of the JPS's effort, you know. I don't want to make light of it. I don't want to make light of the fact that workers, JPS workers, are doing long hours all over the country. Yeah. I'm just saying, I would love to know what happened. Not just 287 poles. What happened to the transmission system all the way through? What happened? I just love to know. I love to see a scientific explanation, investigation as to what happened. Because without a direct hit, and we are at this space, I mean, people in the center of man development today don't have electricity.
Well, people in St. Catherine don't have electricity. People in Kingston don't have electricity.
Say that again, Mary.
People in Kingston don't have electricity.
Okay.
And the electricity in some places is unstable in Kingston. So it's not only
I just would love to know whether our system, even as bad as it is, fared well, could have done better. I would love to hear that sort of investigation.
So we definitely look to hear from JPS an official response. Because, Brother Desmond, just to ask, who is responsible for the changing of the light posts? I thought that would come under a JPS portfolio and not the government, us, or taxpayers' money.
No, is a JPS responsibility.
Okay.
But I just want to make a point. You see, the state in which Jamaica is right now, we are in a very poor state, right? If you look at Jamaica, look at the health sector, look at the crime, look at the roads, look at the delivery of water, services in general. We are in a very poor state, generally speaking. All our services are in shambles.
Yeah.
Right? Our economy not growing. And right?
There's a hurricane on top of that.
The economy is not growing. The economy has grown for the last, I think it's 19 quarters. Not by the spectacular numbers that we all would see. But
hello, sir. Hello. When I talk about economic growth, you know, I don't talk about numbers, you know. I am talking about the impact on the lives of the people. That is what I use to measure economic growth, right?
Well, that might be development, Desmond, but the economy
that might be the last word, sir.
Look, I'm getting the report from Joshua Black.
So where is this growth? This growth that you are talking about, where it is evident?
Desmond, we're going to possibly take it up next week on your.
Yes, because we must go out.
But it's this growth and there's also development. Okay, so we want to thank you all. Thank you to Desmond Richards. Thanks to Mary who carried us forward today. Thanks very much, Mary. We have missed Winnie. And thanks to Lenworth Fulton who says he remains in charge of the Jays at least until September. Thanks to Mr. Black, Joshua Black, who provided us with technical support. I'm Franklin McKnight, and thank you for being with us. Remember, every Sunday at 4 o'clock, live Frankly Speaking Podcast.